Hi there, I'm Jenna from ScribblingGrace.com. Today I'm going to do a much requested Bible journal with me tutorial video on how to paint a watercolor bird. So I have a free printable to help you along. This is no sign-ups necessary or anything. Just get it at the blog post that goes along with this video at scribblinggrace.com/watercolorbird. And in that blog post I'll also put all of the links to the supplies that I use and anything else that I find might be helpful. So the biggest thing I want to note is that if you do not have an interleave Bible like the one that I am using in this video, it has the full blank pages, that I would suggest doing this on a separate sheet of paper and then tipping it into your Bible, which is where you just tape or glue that extra page into your Bible. And yes, so of course you can use the printable to do watercolor, which is what I'm going to do, or acrylics, or pencils, colored pencils, anything that you would like. So I hope that you have fun with it and this inspires you to try something new. Alright, let's get painting. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to take my printable and cut off the inside edge of it. So I'm going to leave the rest of the edges out there so that will protect the pages below it, and I don't need a second sheet of paper, and I still get to see my bird outline underneath the page. So I'm going to use this as like a traceable. You could also print this out at different scales as well. It fits pretty darn well with the interleave Bible, but the interleave Bibles are much bigger than a traditional Bible, so just keep that in mind. You might want to print it at like a 75% or something like that. So I'm just going ahead and getting painting. So I'm using my Kirtake Gansai Tambi watercolor set and just the brown color that's in there. And I'm just going to go ahead and trace over those branches. So I'm doing the big ones first, and then I'll go ahead and add the smaller ones. And I may stray a little bit from my printable, but for the most part I'm going to stick as close as I can with it. So I paint just kind of a basic wash to it, a pretty muted color. So I started off by using a small amount of pigment and a good amount of water, and then I just go ahead and add in little like dots of darker watercolor. So I just got a little less water and a lot more pigment, and I just dotted those on. That'll give me kind of those looks of having the holes in your branch, make it less perfect, I guess. One of the things about watercolor in your Bible is that it can end up crinkling in spots, and it definitely can pool in areas as well. So you can see that in my page here, but if you've been following me, you know I'm all about just having fun and enjoying the time with the Word. It's not about perfection. It's just about improving yourself and improving your relationship with God. So I am just using a size 8 paintbrush here. I get asked a lot what kind of paintbrushes I use, and honestly I just use the cheap paintbrushes, the synthetic ones that come in those packs at the department store or craft store. They're like 10 for $5 or something like that. So I'm just using a size 8 round brush here. And to get the variation of the sizes, I am just applying very little pressure when I'm trying to get those thin branches, and I'm applying more pressure when I want the thicker ones. And of course that just takes a little practice if you're not used to using a paintbrush, but I think that you'll be able to pick it up pretty darn quickly. So I'm painting all of my branches except for that one that goes in front of my bird, and I'm going to wait until I actually paint my bird, and then I'll go back and add those branches at the end. To paint my bird, I'm only going to use 2 colors. I'm going to use a nice dark blue and a deep red from that Kirtake Gansai Tambi watercolor set, and I'll put the link to that in the blog post that goes along with this video. And to paint this bird, I'm just covering up that bird shape with water, so I'm doing the wet on wet technique, and then I'm going to go and quickly add in the watercolor. So I'm starting with my blue, and in my printable you can see the lines, and that back part is where I'm going to fill in the blue to the best of my ability. And because I wet the entire bird, some of that blue is going to seep in towards the middle, and that is perfectly fine. That's exactly what I want. I want it to kind of blend together. And so I'm really concentrating the pigment on the outside, the outside edges. So what I mean by that is I'll pick up a lot of pigment and do the outside first, and then I'll pick up more water, and that way it gets a little less pigmented, a little lighter in color towards the center of my bird. So I guess I'm kind of doing a blue jay, I guess. And I also just one of the things that I love about watercolors, and one of the tips that I could give you, is to work in layers. So you can see that I went over my watercolor quite a few times, especially towards the edges, to get the color more pigmented and richer. And that is totally perfectly fine. Remember that you don't have to get it perfect on the first swipe. You can always go back over it. And yeah, so then I just took a little bit of black and did my beak and some little feet on the branch. And now I'm going to go ahead and add, that's my bird pretty much. I'll do the eye in a little bit. But now I'm going to go ahead and just add some leaves. So all I'm doing is I'm just taking that same brush and just blotting it on my page. This may not look the most realistic and not the perfect leaf shape, but it gives you that impression, and it's definitely an easier way to do leaves, I think. So I'm just blotting it on. You can see, if you look really closely, that when I don't have so much water on my brush, my leaves kind of, or my brush itself kind of frays outward, so my leaves have you can see the little bristles in them, which I liked that effect, so I kept doing that. I used less water as I went, but when I picked up water and the pigment, and my brush was still quite wet, then it gives me a little bit different of a shape. And I think that that's just something to play around with, to see what you like, see what you don't like. You can always practice doing these little blots on a separate sheet of paper beforehand, of course. So, all right. So I'm just going to add that branch that goes in front of my bird, just so it's not like this perfect bird peeking out. I don't even know what I'm saying. And I added a branch up at the top that is not part of the printable, but I thought that it needed a little something up there. So remember, you can always do your own thing. So I'm drying that branch that I just put back in there really quickly, and then I will add leaves on top of that one. You want to make sure that your branches are dry before you add the leaves, or it's gonna muddle it all together, and we don't want that. So as I'm adding more leaves, I realized I should probably tell you what verse I'm working on. So I am working on Psalm 104:33, which says, "I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. I will sing praise to my God while I have being." And I felt like that was a good verse to do a bird on, because I feel like birds are always a good representation of singing. So I just went ahead and kept adding more green till I felt like my page was filled enough. I probably could add more. Of course, you don't have to stick so close to the branches either. You can always go farther. You can do less leaves. That's something that you could be really creative with. Then I went ahead and added some red and yellow dots just to give it like a little extra color, and maybe there's some berries or buds on my branches. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and add my little eyeball. I'm going to use a micron pen, and I just ended up filling in that entire circle with my black micron. These pens don't bleed through, so that's a plus. And then I went ahead and added a white gel pen just to add the whites of the eye, because you gotta have something other than just a big black eye. So now I'm going to use a pencil and trace where I want my lettering to go, and I'm writing out, "I will sing to the Lord as long as I live." And then I'm going to use my Tombow Funosuke brush pen to do some brush calligraphy. And I have a blog post on how to do brush calligraphy, and I'll put that link in the blog post that goes along with this video. And I'll put all of the supplies that I use, and of course you gotta head over there to get this free printable. It's at scribblinggrace.com/watercolorbird, or I'll just put the link in the description below. That's just about it. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And let me know what you think in the comments below, or find me on Instagram or Facebook. I'll put those links in the description as well. I'd love to hear from you. All right, be sure to get that printable. All right, God bless.